Celebration time. It don't matter what part of the jewelry you come from. You da you and me da me. But guess what? All are we the one. See what I mean? Jump and shout all over the nation. We're breaking out with a new creation.
The Chicle industry was vital to Belize's early economy. Historian Don Hector Silva sat down with our team to reflect on the impact of the industry. We will have that conversation after we hear from our partners, the Barry, Shell Belize Limited, B&E Charitable Trust, and the National Gas Company.
My name is Carlos Rodriguez. I am Belizean and I have been in this business for 6 years. Finally now, because of transparent prices, better product quality and fairness in the market, I can see my headway. I have worked hard to buy my own trucks, get my business going, and not depend on anyone. And with NGC operating in the market, I can feel good about the future for my small Belizean business and our employees. In just a short time, I have seen the difference in product quality. A better product means your beauty lasts longer and you get more value for your money. With NGC, there is a fair price across the country. No games or hidden middleman prices. My small business can finally compete in a fair way and be able to pass on better prices to you, our consumers. Trust me, I've been in this business a long time and finally the playing field is level and transparent. I am Carlos Rodriguez from San Ignacio Town and I can finally see my headway.
The National Gas Company Belize Limited, fueling Belize forward.
Since 2008, the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust has created opportunities for Belizeans to develop themselves and their communities. The trust employs tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible so that every Belizean is empowered to achieve their full potential. Over 200,000 Belizeans have been impacted because of our various initiatives. The Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, empowering Belizeans of today to create the Belize of tomorrow.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more, pay less.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well! Go Shell!
It don't matter what part of the jewelry.
And I'm here on the back veranda of someone who is a friend of mine that I've known for many, many years. And I'm talking about none other than Dr. Don Hector Silva, right? You know, Don Hector, we call you Don Hector, but you know the origin of the word Don, where it come from?
Actually, Don is used to describe an elderly person. That's one first. Don, Mister. But also it's a title given to a boss. In other words, a boss man. In Spanish, Don. Don Juan, Don Ricardo, Don Pedro. Elderly, but at the same time, a boss.
And it's also a name of respect.
Yes, yes.
Because the respect in the sense that it's Don, de origen noble.
Yes.
De origen noble, of noble origin.
That's in Spain.
De origen noble. That's the meaning in Spain.
Yeah,
so when they said Don Hector Silva, is they're actually complimenting you of being Don Hector, a man
In
of...
other words,
noble origin.
Honorable.
Honorable.
Almost equivalent.
That's right. So,
Don Juan Tenorio. That's an honorable Don Juan Tenorio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
so una persona de origen noble. Okay. So, Don Hector, Dr. Don Hector. I have to make sure we get the correct title in, right? We're going to talk about Chicle today, right?
Yes.
And Chicle, as you know, is not the Chicle that we are used to today. The Chicle we use today is made of synthesized products, right? In the old days, and one of the mainstays that this country produced was the real Chicle from the sapodilla tree, right? And then that is was one of the mainstays of early Belize. So let's look at Chicle and where those Chicle come from, Don Hector.
Good, then, Dr. Rene. I would like to introduce for the average Belizean what we are talking about. Many Belizeans have heard the word chewing gum, chicle. Many Belizeans enjoyed chewing chicle. Many Belizeans earned their living by the chicle industry. But only a few Belizeans became rich by the chicle industry. Now, you will hear tonight, that for the first time, you will hear the sweet but also the sad part of this industry, like never been told yet in the history of Belize. It should be noted that the chicle industry was one of the two major industries along the mahogany industry which jump-started the economy of British Honduras to the Belize. So we invite the public to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly of this industry. So we begin now by you.
You want to take it in that order, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
The good, the bad.
Well, let's hear the good first then.
The good part is that it built the economy of this new nation. The good is that it employed hundreds and hundreds of men in the Cayo district, in Orange Walk, in Toledo. This was a national industry. So, likewise, some of the men that worked were very thrifty and they saved. Some of them went into farming. They didn't remain as a chiclero, but the majority of chicleros actually ended pretty poor because there were so many temptations that were placed in the tongues for when the chicleros came from the jungle. Cantinas, bar rooms, nightlife, and all these things. So that is one of the bad part of the industry. But the good part is that it created the economy. It also, because of that, certain villages were developed. For example, Bullet Tree, Santa Familia, Socots, San Antonio, Cristo Rey. Those villages actually sprouted from the chicle industry.
The Mopan River was used a lot.
Yes, Mopan, Macal, and so that's the good part.
Okay, we are talking about the chicle now. You gave me the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't know if you expounded enough on the ugly, though.
Well, the ugly was that, as I said, there was so much temptations
That was
created for the chicleros. And of course, there is one that is of major importance for Belizeans to know, and that is what we are going to reveal when we come to the life and death of Don Eleuterio Hernandez.
Okay, so
Then we're going to get the ugly.
we'll get the ugly there.
Real ugly.
Now, the chicle. Let's look at the chicle. And since it was the main state, it was in every pack of chewing gum you could think about, right?
Yeah.
In those days. Where does chicle originate? I know it comes from the sapodilla tree, but I would like you to give us a brief look as to how this was discovered and how it was discovered that this tree could produce this substance.
Good. In 1859, I think something like that, yes, chicle was discovered in the jungles of Belize. What was found first is the resin, a resin from a tree called sapodilla. That resin was elaborated by cooking, molding, and then prepare the blocks for the export market. All this was done in the jungle. The person that extracted that resin from the tree was called a chiclero. A chiclero. So that chiclero climbed those very high trees, as we are going to see in
And we'll cut some.
yes. And then he cut,
Beans.
they cut little canals so accurate, so that the resin will begin to flow from way top, even the branches on these canals. It came right around the tree, and it came to a receiving bag made of rubber, raw rubber, right from the savannas here. So that was the extraction of the chicle. Now let us bear in mind that the sap of these trees, or the resin, did not flow in the dry season. So the chicle season began in June, when the first rains come, lasted up to December. Because when the cold weather came, likewise, it didn't flow too good. So the real season was between June and early December. In December, the chicleros called off, came down to town to settle accounts with the bosses, with the contractor.
To spend the hard money on the other on the other areas.
But let us give the process. When that resin was collected down below the tree, there were the men that cooked the resin. It wasn't the chiclero. We have a picture there. These persons cooked the chicle to form it into a hard mass, and then they put them in molds of approximately 25 pounds. These blocks were let to dry for a while. Then there's the other group that used to come called the capatas. That's the man that took the mules from the town to the jungle to receive the chicle in blocks. Then he would give a receipt to the chiclero. I received 100 pounds from John Jones. I received 75 pounds from, okay. So that comes over to the town, to the contractor, the bodega, the big warehouse. So there were these chicleros who also work in groups, so that they actually work like a small cooperative to help each other. Good. So when that chicle is received at the warehouse, it is weighed again, then a receipt is given. When the season came to an end in December, then all the chicleros come down, and that's when the tongues, they were dressed in ribbons, because a chiclero is so, I don't know for this. They used to buy the big rolls of ribbon right there, Burns Avenue. They tie it on a post and they walk down up to the end. When the ribbon done, they go to a canteen and that's it. But it was a pleasure to see. So when the chiclero, delivered, no. Let us go back a little bit. How were these chicleros contracted? That's the important point. there was what they call a contract between the boss and the chiclero. It was an official document that this chiclero signed saying, I shall work for Mr. So-and-so. I shall receive financial assistance for my family. I shall deliver chicle only to Mr. John Jones. In other words, it was a document that actually tied that chiclero to one boss in good or in bad times.
Who were the bosses in those times?
About 38 contractors. The Ava has the names of those chicleros, about 36 or so. Big. Benque and San Ignacio. They were in Orange Walk too. Mr. Espejo, they had the Castillo, they had other people. And in Punta Gorda, they had Mr. Abdallah Espat and other Gomez's, I don't remember who are. But it was a national industry. But not here in Cayo. Okay. Now, these people were contracted. They were given all their utensils. Abba has a picture of them. Of all they needed, for example, machete. They needed rope to climb the tree. They needed food, certain items to take to the jungle. And there were a list of things that they needed that were supplied by the merchants here. And they go into the jungle and they cannot come out. That was one of the ugly parts. They couldn't come out of the jungle without a permission from the boss.
And that was written in the contract before they got it?
In the contract. I remember as a young man at our farm there, chicleros used to live nearby, that sometimes they come out because their parents are sick or they want to see their wife or whatever. Suddenly somebody goes squeal because they had squealers, go squeal. The police immediately go to the villages on their horse. When the chicleros see those policemen coming, man, it was something crazy. These men, they ran back into the bush with a big bag on their backs because they used to arrest them and lock them up. Was
there a reason behind why they couldn't leave the camp at all? There must have been a reason why.
Because
what was the reason given?
The contractor wanted them to produce. They don't want them to come and dance in tongue and no, you have to stay and produce up there in the jungle.
So those days you had no rights basically?
No rights whatsoever, not rights. So now this thing went on for years. Imagine from 1894, Chicle industry began. And then, okay, before we come to the ugliest part, the chicleros came down, went to the office with his receipts. I delivered 10,000 pounds, $15,000, only using figures wildly. And so this is it, what I do. No, the accountant said, wait just a minute. You ask for this for your wife. You ask for this for the young girl. You ask for this. And sometimes in those lists, I saw one where the chiclero was charged for 9 bags of flour. But he argued vehemently that it was only 3. No. What was the reply from the accountant? How many did you ask me for? 3. They couldn't read and write, They were in alphabet. 3. Good, 3. He said, and I put down 3, it's 6. The policeman said, well, that, yes. And you carry 3? 9. The policeman, he said, but wait, he said, no, man, it's only 3. No, it's your side. You told me that you asked for 3. You told me that I wrote for 3, and you took 3. Mm-hmm. So that's 9. And similar arguments arose at the time of settling accounts.
Was there anybody or any authority these Chicleros will complain to?
Who?
Anybody, any authority they could complain to?
Actually, a policeman, a justice of the peace, or there was another person. Three of them were signed as witnesses at this police, and there was a seal that they cannot argue because they agreed on that contract.
Now, a curiosity here. Who owned those stores that supplied the Chicleros?
Well, there were various. There were contractors that had store, but there were also other people.
Because I get the idea, I get the feeling that the concept was that, okay, you work with Chicle, you sell it to me, you know, I export the Chicle, make the money, but then at the same time I feed you and I give you things on my store on credit, and then when you come to pay me now, I will get back the same money that I gave you. You know, as I give you a check for, I pay you $200 for the Chicle work that you have done, but you owe me $200 too, so the money come right back to me.
Well, yes,
It was not the principle they tried to operate under, like that the money would not stay and circulate, but that it would come right back to the merchant?
no, because
landowner?
the contractor had several suppliers. Maybe he had a store, but there are other people that he had arrangement with to feed those Chicleros, to give the Chicleros what they want, send it to the boss, and the boss paid the merchant. But then he in charge of the Chiclero, and that's where the accounts went sour of nine bags of flour for 3. And this went on for so many years, you know. I remember poor people, you know, Chicleros, hard-working men that didn't know to sign. They used to have to make a class to sign the contract. But there was the policeman to stamp it, or a justice of the peace or whatever. No. Let's go back to the jungle.
But before we go to the jungle, Hector, how were these men contracted to work? These same guys we're talking about that were chanced and had to work so hard in the Chicle industry, how were they contracted? Was they just go and look for them, or they come and apply?
They said they had offices. In other words, let us say a spot have a big office down yonder, Habet another one. You know, the different contractors, Mosiah, well, most the names are there. They had their places where the Chicleros can go and sign the contract. The following year was no problem. The Chiclero know to who he's going.
Yeah.
But it was so strict that a Chiclero cannot change contractor as he wish. There had to be a good reason because he signed a contract. And some of those contracts were renewable from year to year. So the poor Chiclero was actually, I call it slavery, because it's part of slavery when you cannot choose who you want to work with.
Yeah. But they were mostly people who were born here in Belize, right, at the time?
Chicleros?
The Chicleros.
Oh, yes, they work here. Most of them.
Let's say from neighboring countries or
Well,
something.
they had in Petén Chicle, but they had big contractors in Petén, like the Taher, the Baldisons, and all these people.
Okay, go ahead now.
Good. No, let's go back into the jungle. The Chiclero used to go there. He has to work in rain, because during the rain is when the sap of the tree flows better.
You told me that.
Yeah, okay. So he has to work there. So that Chiclero takes his clothing, all his apparel, to go into the jungle. Then he works there every day till nightfall, and then from there he comes to the camp, take away that wet clothes. They used to have build their little fire and put it over the fire to dry for the following day, and they put on a dry one. But then there were these dangers. In those days, there were terrible snakes in the jungles here. There were terrible jungles. I don't know where they went, but there were the tamigaf, the yellow jar, the jumping tamigaf, so many snakes. So the Chiclero had to bear all these, including bezoar, a fly that bites their ears and they just eat it up. Eat it up. I knew men that had no ears, Chicleros, that bezoar. Then you had also the other matter of the animals, tigers, they were a bit ferocious. Well, jaguars.
Jaguars. We used to have tigers.
And also there was that danger of that rope. Their machete was as sharp as a razor blade to be able to cut that exact canal. Because if you dig too much, it goes in under the where the canal or the machete gone into the sap go in there. So they had to be perfectly made. But if that man by mistake, and this happened, in doing this, it touched the rope, that man going down to his death down below. Because those machete was so, and the rope was so tight that just a touch with that machete, it would cut the rope.
So you're saying that the sap that makes the chicle, that the chicle is made from at that time, came from the bark, between the bark of the tree and the hard core part of the tree.
Yeah.
So you couldn't cut way down into the hard core of the tree.
No.
You just had to cut the bark of the tree, and the sap was somewhere in the middle.
Yes, exactly.
And so that's how it was cut in these areas, so it could flow down into the buckets, right?
Exactly,
Into
because
the,
if you would cut in circle around the tree, you would kill that tree.
yeah.
So the cutting was so elaborately made that only for the sap to run down.
Yeah.
And because that tree will regenerate eventually in the next 2-3 years, that bark is returns.
Because you're only cutting the bark.
Only the bark for a canal. Then all that sap come down. So that was the danger that the chicleros had to bear those 6 months of rain. They had to work in the jungle. In the dry, it was out. So now, having said about the extraction and delivery, we said the dangers, the time of liquidation, we spoke that was a big quarrel downtown because the Chiclero had to fight. And then, now and again, it was discovered that the scales were doctored. And there were smart Chicleros that would go to another contractor, weigh his, ask permission from the employee. Yeah, and then they go back to the man, and over yonder is 15 pounds less. But it's because the scales, they were doctored. That was another big argument. But now they...
So you have this chicle now, and it's already produced. It's boiled, placed in, made into blocks, right? Brought down to Belize City, to the warehouses.
The warehouses then would ship those blocks by riverboat down the Rutamaya, around the Belize Whole River.
You're talking about shipping it from here to Belize City.
To Belize City, but by river. Then they go to the big warehouses by Holy Redeemer. There were some big ones right along that place there. And then from there it goes to the ships.
Where Batumdala was one of those warehouses, because I can remember as a little boy, we were still shipping chicle.
Yeah.
You could go and you break off a little piece at the chicle and you chew that, right? And it had no flavor in it. Because but nothing serious, and you could chew that.
Yes.
And we used to do that as little boys. I can remember we just go and break a little piece and chew it. But this chicle was exported, was for export to places like Wrigley's.
And there was another company, I think, in New York. I forget what it was, but Wrigley was the biggest buyer. So the industry was a yearly industry. It produced employment to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chicleros. They claim that there was once over 800 men working in the jungles around these areas, no? Chiquibul. But the chicle at Chiquibul, actually Chiquibul means chicle bull, you know? Chicle bull is a type of, there are 4 kinds of chicles. Chicle female, which is the best, the number one. That's gets the best price. Then they have the Chicle Macho, which is a more bastard chicle. Then they had the two others, I don't recall the name, but there were 4 types of chicle. So they paid according to the quality of chicle. Chicle Bull or Chicle Bull, the original name, is that whole area there that does not have the female or the first class chicle. The first class chicle was mostly this area here, going towards Borel Boom, going towards Garanjog. That was the number one chicle. And of course, around the areas nearby, they had them. So they got paid by the quality of chicle. So this industry, as we said before, was the mainstay of all these men who depended upon that yearly industry for their, because when the dry came, there was no work. They had the other big industry, which was the mahogany industry, that was mostly for other type of men, stronger men, and that's where the mosquito Indians came very handy. They were brought into the logging industry. And the Belize Creole, what the Creoles, they were the strong men, you know, to be able to lift up one of them big chain. The Chiclero could climb, but the other one, they had the strength, you know, to handle that heavier work, which was the mahogany.
For a long time, Wrigley's bought our Chicle.
Yes.
To make their different chewing gums, and then we would buy it back in the form of these nice chewing gum, right?
Yes. And I think the Wrigley Field, was built with profits from the Chicle. I always boast. I was in Chicago once, and I told them, I said, you see that big place there? That was built with our money. The Chicle industry that was extracted and exported there. So, the Chicle. Now, people want to know, when did this industry collapse? This has been a big argument.
Well, it collapsed when they started using synthetic things to cover and to avoid to chew.
Yeah, but that was one. But here in Belize, we had that monster hurricane Hade. If you would have seen the jungle right behind our farm, the jungle, those trees, they came down. And so the government gave permit to cut them, you know, and export. Some of them used to export for train ties, or what they call them. So they salvage a lot, because the latex is true, but there was still a preference for the real chewing gum. In your chewing, you can feel the latex, your teeth jump. In other words, like rubber.
No, it's not the same like the Chicle. The latex could never be the same like the Chicle, but it took the place of it, but it's not the same.
Well, yes, commercially, but quality-wise, our Chicle was the best, the natural Chicle, no?
When we come back, Don Hector looks at the controversy surrounding the life and death of Chiclero Eleuterio Hernandez. But first, a word from our partners.
The B&E Charitable Trust, working in the development of Belize by inspiring young Belizean entrepreneurs to dream and to dream big. The National Gas Company, fueling Belize forward. The National Gas Company makes sure that you not only have a guaranteed supply of gas for every household need, but also that it is of the highest quality always. Shell Belize has been fueling Belize for many, many years, and they have done so reliably and with a lot of dependability. And the Barry stores in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio, Orange Walk, and San Pedro, offering you much more for much less.
My name is Carlos Rodriguez. I am Belizean, and I have been in this business for 6 years. Finally now, because of transparent prices, better product quality, and fairness in the market, I can see my headway. I have worked hard to buy my own trucks, get my business going, and not depend on anyone. And with NGC operating in the market, I can feel good about the future for my small Belizean business and our employees. In just a short time, I have seen the difference in product quality. A better product means your beauty lasts longer and you get more value for your money. With NGC, there is a fair price across the country. No games or hidden middleman prices. My small business can finally compete in a fair way and be able to pass on better prices to you, our consumers. Trust me, I've been in this business a long time, and finally the playing field is level and transparent. I am Carlos Rodriguez from San Ignacio Town, and I can finally see my headway.
The National Gas Company Belize Limited, fueling Belize forward.
Since 2008, the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust has created opportunities for Belizeans to develop themselves and their communities. The trust employs tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible so that every Belizean is empowered to achieve their full potential. Over 200,000 Belizeans have been impacted because of our various initiatives. The Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, empowering Belizeans of today to create the Belize of tomorrow.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well! Go Shell!
It don't matter what part of the Jew.
One day we'll have to be less dependent on Chicle.
Well, there are a lot of superstitious people that say if you bleed the chicle, you say if you sell rum and something else, you say you will die poor. That's an old superstition here. You bleed the chicle tree, you say you are killing God's creation. Because you affect the tree. So, why did they go down? There were many prominent people, families here, you know, very prominent, pretty wealthy. But I don't know where it is. But certain money, where did it go? Where did it go? I have been trying to trace because some of my brother-in-laws were Thornton's grandson, like Robert Acosta, Paulo Acosta, and you know, and everything just went disappeared. It became volatile. Thornton, big money. Don Wahib, the same thing. Up to now, I don't know where those capitals are. So is Noguera capital. So are all these big men that were the leading men in Chicle, like Bosman Arnold Dad, that was a big place, you know, happy home. Big contractor. I know them in banking. Se acabó. Where did that capital go to? That's the mysterious part about the Chicle industry. Now, let's jump into one of the real stories in the Chicle industry. And that was the life and death of a young man named Eleuterio Hernandez. There was sad stories every December about how many Chicleros did not return home.
Why wouldn't they return home? What would be a reason? What
The reason that they gave was that the tiger eat them, or that they fell from the tree. And in those times, the jungles here were thick. Or they fell from the tree or snake bite them. Because some of them used to walk by themselves. Yeah. And they died in the jungle. Well, that went on for years, year in, year out. One day a young man living at Bully Tree. He was actually a immigrant from Mexico, 19 years old. Came to Bully Tree because Bully Tree was settled by many Mexicans long ago, 100 odd years ago. Mexicans that came, they settled in Bully Tree, like Manzaneros, Jimenez, Landeros, and I can't name all of them. So this young man came, like others came before, and he found his paisanos there, and he decided to stay there. Now, this young man had a little bit intelligent. He began to find out the life of that village. Then he found out about the missing Chicleros. He wanted to find out why. He began to ask questions all around, but he couldn't get. People were perhaps afraid, or I don't know. One day, according to eyewitness, which I got it direct from the old man, he went and he found a lady with 3 children, one on her shoulder and 2 standing side.
Two growing up.
And this lady was crying. So he went and he said, "What happened? Why are you crying?" The lady said, "Mi marido no vuelve. My husband is not coming back." But what happened? Then she told him, they said that the snake bite him, fell down from the tree, or the tiger eat him. This little young man was so inquisitive. He said, "Look, man, you know more than that, man. You could tell me more." The lady said, according to the old man, Don Manzanero, the lady said, I don't want to tell you, say, but they have killers that are killing the Chicleros. Because according to certain people that came out afterwards, but at the beginning there was that fear not to say. In fact, Rene, I'll tell you what we are doing right now. Other people from Belize City have tried to do it. Exactly what we are doing today. And they just denied to continue. And I will tell you in personal after this recording who they are. They came here, they spoke to among the people. My dad was very, very knowledgeable of this entire industry. And he knew Eleuterio personally. And Eleuterio came to him asking for a loan of $5, but he asked many, to buy a Winchester. But that is on part of the story. So now when it was felt that indeed Chicleros were being shot, and the rumors began, he said, yes, he said, we see some Nicaraguan and Honduran people here that are not Chicleros, and they are prosperous. The talk of the tongue. So Eleuterio said, I will find out. But a Winchester, and that young man began to follow Chicleros and non-Chicleros when they go to the jungle. And according to a magistrate named Tom Farley, I found it in the internet. Tom Farley gave the story, but he twisted the bloody story that the people here knew. And he gave you the name of Eleuterio Hernandez. He gave us how he was a bandit and how they captured him and a lot of these things. But going back to what I was telling you, so now this young man began to go into the jungle, and according to the old villagers, he said the Chicleros stopped dying. He shot a lot of them. The young man, yes, Eleuterio.
That he shot.
He shot many of the killers.
The killers.
Yes,
okay.
And they raised the gun. So some of the contractors, I don't want to pinpoint, some of the contractors went to the magistrate and told him that there was a bandit named Eleuterio Hernandez who is killing their employees. So the magistrate made an order that was posted in the police station, wanted dead or alive, Eleuterio Hernandez, $500 reward. At that time, 500 was plenty money. That was possible because my dad said he saw the right at the, and other old men. Because I consulted, what I'm telling you, I consulted old people, old folks, veritable, honest people. And so they had that poster. So they began to hunt Eleuterio as a bandit. Eleuterio moved from Bolitri and he went through this narrow road. There was a harsh road right on the road to Benque. That was a harsh trail. So Eleuterio went and he got to Benque Viejo for a while and he stood there. He found a girlfriend. And when he only could visit during the day. At night they had the whole Benque practically in curfew. So Eleuterio was visiting this young lady and her mother was there. When Eleuterio did so, he saw the cap of a police by the son. The son was to the back. Police made a mistake. And when he saw the cap of a police...
You're talking as a shadow?
Yes, at the shadow. So he took his... Now this time he had a pistol. So when the corporal named Timbrel approached, he shot him dead.
Eleuterio shot Timbrel.
Corporal Timbrel. He died. And the rest of police run. They gone. Eleuterio came back because they were going to look for him there. There was no telephone in those days. So he came back, and right there by Windy Hill, I took pictures already of all those sites. Right by Windy Hill, he went down to a creek that is there and to give water to his horse. And when he heard galloping coming from Benque Road. So when he heard that, he started to look. He saw two policemen coming on horse to report the death of Corporal Timber by the Eleuterio Hernandez, who was wanted. So Eleuterio stood on the road. The two policemen, they came and he raised his gun to shoot them.
He was aiming to shoot the two police.
To shoot police, but he said, "Para, halt, come down." He came and he told the policeman, "Lift up your hand, I will not kill you." He went and took away the pistol, threw it into the jungle, and they told him, "Go back and tell them that I am not a murderer, or else I will kill you." These are all reports that those police made. Okay, so Eleuterio from there came riding. He went to the back here to Bolitri again. There was another instance when I think a someone was taken to his girl or something, a Mercedes, and Eleuterio was there, a policeman. They claimed that he also shot that policeman. But nevertheless, this story comes now when the government didn't know how to capture Eleuterio Hernandez. And there were lies that he was in Petén, that he was in there. So then, for about many months, Eleuterio, you know here about Eleuterio. So Bob Thornton come from Belize. He used to come every year to celebrate a good crop for the year, Chicle crop. So they rode about 30, understand, about 30 contractors, policemen, and the magistrate decided to go for a little celebration at Bolitri. This was also a new road to Bolitri, to celebrate because Bolitri was a buying post of Chicle and Petén. And so they were going there when Eleuterio was hiding right there by Wanli Creek. When the horse said, Mr. Thornton coming ahead, Eleuterio gone and he shot 2 fingers off, totally. 2 fingers were amputated. And the other one just grazed him there, and they rode back everybody to say,
Who he shot?
Bob Thornton.
Bob Thornton.
He knocked off 2 fingers.
Knocked off 2 Bob Thornton finger and...
2 fingers were out. And one time I went to see George and he told me that then Kayo boy said shoot the 2. He told me, you know, because he knew my dad, Bob Thornton. So I went to pay rent and see George at the same time when he was there. So George telling me, you know this young man? He said, who he? He said, Polo Silva. So, oh, I know that Polo Silva, man. The one who got the cattle ranch, the duck run. So, so he shot so Bob Thornton and then Stampede, they went back. Eleuterio went back. So now he said, how are we going to catch him? He said, the only thing is to bring the West India Regiment underneath of Captain Enright. Yeah, Captain Enright. And
So there were no local resources to go for him?
they couldn't handle him. The police couldn't handle him. He was too elusive. When they think he's here, he's over yonder. So now they came and they said, no. I think my detective came and said, who is near to him? So somebody said his compadre. They believe his compadre is providing food for him and assistance.
Who is the compadre?
Well, that's a gentleman I want to mention because his family, somebody family they don't hear. Yeah. But so they went to his compadre and they paid him, they don't know how much. They made a good gift, a gift to tell them where they can get Eleuterio. Eleuterio was camping right about quarter mile before you get to Belize. The creek is right there, and there's a bush mysteriously, nobody touched it. And that's where Eleuterio was camping. West India Regiment came during the day, they paused. Eleuterio was God knows where, but in the evening when he came about 6 o'clock or so to his camp, little camp that he had there, he took his horse and took away the bit to drink water, and he went ahead to drink water.
That's Eleuterio.
Eleuterio. So the captain, they were all ready. So Captain Enright gave the order to fire. Out of 20, only one caught him. And according to reports, he stood and he said, cowards, in Spanish, ¿no? Cobardes. Me hubieran agarrado vivo para que yo cuente esta historia. And he died right there. According to the magistrate, they dug a wrong hole. Wrong, that's what Farley is saying in the report. They dug a wrong hole and threw his body and covered him. So that's the end of Eleuterio there at that creek. Well, the story went, nobody he was a hero for the Chicleros and everybody, Eleuterio, the great Eleuterio. And the other side say Eleuterio, the bandit. Eleuterio was never a Chiclero, but say he was a Chiclero. And so that's the end of Eleuterio life. No, we are giving it in brief, what we are discussing, because it's long. It has other things, for example, when the police may want to touch it, and the magistrate put that, want to touch a girl, the girl turn around and spit him. All that the magistrate wrote, the report. And Eleuterio had a son. Nobody knew. The son was in Chicle. And this son, over the years, grew old. And I have the picture of him there. I gave it to him. That son came down to Cayo. First of all, that son told me, he was at Octavia Wade at the age of 92. He told me that he knew my father. That's why they named him Polo. Okay. Because my father was Polo Silva. And that he, as a little boy, worked with my grandfather in Benque as the yard boy. He died right there at the age of 96, I think, Polo Hernandez. And so that's the story, as simple as we could put it now.
We will continue the discussion on the Chicle industry, but first, a word from our partners, the National Gas Company, the Barry, B&E Charitable Trust, and Shell Belize Limited.
My name is Carlos Rodriguez. I am Belizean and I have been in this business for 6 years. Finally now, because of transparent prices, better product quality and fairness in the market, I can see my headway. I have worked hard to buy my own trucks, get my business going, and not depend on anyone. And with NGC operating in the market, I can feel good about the future for my small Belizean business and our employees. In just a short time, I have seen the difference in product quality. A better product means your butane lasts longer and you get more value for your money. With NGC, there is a fair price across the country. No games or hidden middleman prices. My small business can finally compete in a fair way and be able to pass on better prices to you, our consumers. Trust me, I've been in this business a long time and finally the playing field is level and transparent. I am Carlos Rodriguez from San Ignacio Town and I can finally see my headway.
The National Gas Company Belize Limited, fueling Belize forward.
Since 2008, the Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust has created opportunities for Belizeans to develop themselves and their communities. The trust employs tools that are intuitive, collaborative, and accessible so that every Belizean is empowered to achieve their full potential. Over 200,000 Belizeans have been impacted because of our various initiatives. The Belize Natural Energy Charitable Trust, empowering Belizeans of today to create the Belize of tomorrow.
We are the Barry, offering you great products, good service, and of course, the lowest prices in the entire country. Visit us in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio Cayo, Orange, and now in San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. The Barry. Get more? Be less.
Shell V-Power, with 3 times more cleaning and friction-reducing molecules. Go well. Go Shell.
It don't matter what part of the jewel.
So, Dr. Hector Silva,
Yes.
is Eleuterio Hernandez considered a hero of Belize or a hero of the Chicleros? What sort of regard should you hold on Eleuterio Hernandez after you? Because I know this story is you're very passionate about this story.
Yes, I am very passionate because what we were experiencing was actually genocide. Genocide in a disguised manner, whereby people were brought according to that people were brought here from other countries and to shoot down these productive men. These men that were working deep in the jungle were assassinated. For what reason? And so Eleuterio came and did what nobody else was able to do all these years when these men disappeared. So Eleuterio became...
He sought out the assassins.
What? Yes, he came and he shot them. He got rid of them, and whoever didn't catch had to run away. And the sad part is this, that he was treated as a bandit, as a murderer. So Eleuterio became a name. To me, Eleuterio, when I was growing young, Eleuterio was mentioned when there was injustice. Si estuviera Eleuterio Hernandez. And I grew with that name, Eleuterio Hernandez, until late in life, I said, I have to investigate this matter deeper. And he died for the salvation of many, many innocent men in the jungle. So he was called the hero of the Chiclero. And by extension, he is a national hero because what he did here was to prevent this same disgraceful state into other areas of Belize. So he died, and my friends here in Bully Tree, some of them, is planning very soon, after I present this, to build a little monument right there at the spot where he's supposed to be buried.
Tell me about that spot and tell me how he died. Remind me of how he died.
Yeah. Well, he actually was camping out there. And when they couldn't find him anymore,
That's just outside San Ignacio, between San Ignacio and Bully Tree.
quarter mile before you get to Bully Tree, there's a bridge that goes deep, and on the right hand there's a jungle, a piece of jungle. Why it is there, I don't know. The jungle is there intact. And that's where he was ambushed by the West India Regiment. When our police couldn't get him, they were here. But at the betrayal of his own compadre, who told the regiment where his compadre would be at that certain date. When he came from the jungle, he dismounted, put his horse to drink water. He went to drink a little bit of water. When the order was given, fire. Of the 20 guns that according, only one bullet caught him, but he stood and he said, "Cowards, you should have caught me alive to tell this story." So I am telling the story. He didn't, but I am telling the story. So that's why I feel very passionate about this whole thing, because it was actually something never heard about before in any part of Belize.
So, Dr. Hector, let me see if I can summarize what you have been saying, and correct me as we go along. Right? The Chicleros worked deep in the jungle.
Yes.
There were other Chicleros being brought in from neighboring countries around us to work the industry as well.
Yes.
The local Chicleros, bit by bit, began disappearing.
Yes.
Right? A few of them began disappearing. This gentleman we are talking about found out that this was happening, took it on himself to become like the avenger of those who were systematically being killed, right? And to wreak havoc on those who were responsible for the killing. Is that what you are saying? Right. And so he himself because of his actions, became an outlaw. Where the society and the then society was concerned. But he was convinced that he was righteous in the fact that he was doing this to avenge his fellow Chicleros who were being systematically annihilated over the years. Now, he took refuge in his village, in the area, in a little jungle there, and his relative told the West India Regiment, his compadre told the West India Regiment who were looking for him where he was, and they came and they shot him, right? They ambushed and shot him when he came out.
Yes.
And so only one shot caught him, you're telling me, out of the 20 that were fired, and that's the shot that ended his life. You're saying that, and just before his life ended, that he stood up and he said, "Cowards, you should have caught me alive to tell the story." Because he wanted to tell his story as to why he did what he did. And you are saying now that you, at last, are telling that story on his behalf. That's the way I understand what you said.
And based upon reliable witnesses that knew this story, my father included. Many worthy witnesses were able and willing to give this story when I began, because other people came from Belize City to try to cover the story, but they back off for some reason. And so this is the opportunity, thanks to Love FM, that is serving as that avenue to begin to tell this story, which is very long, but this is more or less the brief story of that sad episode that Belize went through.
And our Chicle exports to the United States and the importance of Chicle ended up subsiding and it ended up dying because we don't export that anymore. How did it come to an end?
I want to blame 1961 Hattie hurricane because of our jungles that were flattened. Timber, mahogany, and chicle trees went down quite a lot. I tell you, it was a disaster. Because even the chicleros were saying that they, went to see if they could find some of these trees, and they're not there. So people right now, they say, but there was no revival, no more trees came out. That was 60 years ago, but it just flattened.
But, and of course, the synthetic substance that's used for chewing gum today replaced the chicle.
Well, yes, the synthetic did it, but that chicle remained as the number one for many years because they had even tried many years before with the bubble gum. I remember when bubble gum came, so they said chicle is going to stop. No, but chicle continued. When I was very young, we were still exporting chicle and bubble gum, but the people wanted the chicle. Especially the adults and the ladies, for when they go to dance, they have a piece of chicle to cool their mouth and so. And bubble gum was mostly for blow bubbles, no?
And the major exporters of chicle were Robert Sidney Turton and BEC. Today's BEC, but I think at that time it had another name.
Belize Estate and Produce Company. British Honduras and Produce Company, something like that.
British Honduras Distributors. And something, I can't remember.
Industry actually began in full in 1894. I checked all the contractors when they were in operation, was in the late 1890s. So it was around there, and that went through up to about 1940, 48, 49. And it began to go slow, as you said, with that competition. But the blow was when Hurricane Hattie came. That's what I consider that is what happened. Many of the trees were blown down, and so it came to an end.
And Belize changed, really, you would almost have to say forever after Hurricane Hattie, since you brought up Hurricane Hattie, because there was a number of Belizeans that migrated to the United States, and that started that massive
61
exodus.
After the hurricane. And there were many other, even the seas that were disturbed, by that storm. It caused a lot of damage in the ocean. Like, for example, Kikaka was split, St. George's Key was split, and many other little Sergeant Key disappeared. I used to go spend holidays there, and that disappeared, it wiped out, and many other. So Hattie did a tremendous. But here I pass to say, praise to George Kettle Price, who rose up after 61 hurricane and built back Belize, built back Belmopan, built back industries.
Well, he built Belmopan.
Yeah, built Belmopan.
was not there.
But he revived industries like the sugar industry, went right up. So Hurricane Hattie, as what the Anglican bishop said, appeared to have been a blessing in disguise. That's what he said. A blessing in disguise. I don't know what else, but I am seeing what I saw.
Well, we'll have to do a show on Hurricane Hattie, Don Hector.
That's tremendous.
Because Hurricane Hattie in itself is an item that we have to deal with closer to its anniversary.
It actually changed the landscape of Belize. Created Hattieville, created Belmopan, Silgrass, Georgetown, and so many other places were created because of Hattie. People never want to come out. The bishop said, you can move the people from Belize City, but you cannot move Belize City from the people. That was a powerful statement. You may move the people away from Belize City, but you will never move Belize City out of the people. And that's a fact. Many people left, but they said Belize City is the hub of Belize and will continue being.
Well, Dr. Hector Silva, it was a pleasure and honor to talk to you as usual, and we have to come back and do maybe the mahogany industry and other historical aspects of Belizean culture. You know, next one that I want to do too, and I'm putting you on the spot here, I want to do one on the life of Dr. Hector Silva. And I'm putting I'm putting you on the spot here with that one. You know, so we have that pending, right?
Yeah. So, I am on my twilight zone, you know. Twilight zone. I will be 89 this year. Wow. But I don't feel it.
You don't look at it, you don't act it neither.
No, I don't feel it. But you know, Rene, your visits, thanks Ava, thanks the photographer, actually gives a light in the tunnel, in the Belizean tunnel, that we have been kept in darkness in the past. We, at the moment, likewise, we have not seen that little light, that pin of light in the tunnel. And it is programs like this that actually will begin to awaken Belizeans on that important factor called ambition, vision and ambition. Because right now our young generation don't have a route where they can say, I will do this, because there is nothing to give them that impetus, which is history. History. You know, I got into politics or whatever I am doing today because I used to admire what Tony Soberanes did, what Nicholas Pollard did, what Philip Golson did, and what all those great leaders that went. So that gave me that encouragement or that vision that I should do my part. And so I said, even though I am retired from politics totally, I still believe that I have an obligation and a duty to keep the people informed. Yeah. I do it on a daily basis, and I also, my Facebook page, every day I am putting an article of what happened. Like the latest one that I put was, I invite you to accompany on a journey of the past when things were very hard, tough. People still survived. Now with the complaint, gasoline went up. Yes, it went up. But in those days, we had worse things during the crisis. Instead of flour, wheat flour, we had to use banana flour. Yeah. Right here in Cairo, I remember. And there were substitutes for those imported goods that we couldn't get. Leather, we couldn't get good shoes, but Sokos used to make moccasins. Nice moccasins, soft, nice. So these are the stories that we have to begin to tell the young people, that the world is not over. The world had a beginning. And there were these great men and women that just carried the load for us and put us now in that position to do our share. We have done it, but I don't feel that I will ever finish.
You won't finish because there's so much to tell. But I want to thank you again, Dr. Hector. Thank you so much, Dr. Hector Silva.
Dr. Rene, thank you very much. Ava, thank you very much. Young man, thank you very much.
Belize Watch. Knowledge of the past, impacting the present, building the future.